Hi there, this is Dr. Everybody. We're going to take a look at Project 4. This project deals with strings. And in particular, what you're going to end up doing a lot in this one is finding where spaces are in the string and then doing a lot of slicing to divide the string up into parts. And then I also use the strip method, which was handy to remove spaces at the ends of whatever divisions I've come up with. So there's a few suggestions. Just as a note, you are not allowed to use lists in terms of looking forward. So let's take a look at this project. And where I'm going to start with this is just how it works. So what we have here is a line editor. This is kind of the way that that you would edit programs or files of any sort back 40 years ago. So this is something like what I would have used in my early days of computing. And the idea is that you look at everything one line at a time and you do your editing based on that. And so this one was designed around editing words. And to make so there is a command. There are a set of options that you have here, and these are the ones that we have to work with. And there's also an H for printing that menu, and then a Q to quit. And so you can move around in this line. You can go to the next word or the previous word. That's moving forwards or backwards. You can insert a word. You can erase the current word. Notice the word current, and so that ends up being important. You can replace the current word, and then you can cut and paste. Oops, there's supposed to be a V there. I have a typo in my menu. Got to fix that up. And then you can load a string in there. So let's load let's actually start with this. And let's load a string. Okay, so it inputs a string. We'll pull out Hamlet's famous soliloquy, to be or not to be. All right. Now I have a string. Now notice that I'm always going to be printing out the line. That's so I have some idea of what I'm working on, and that the line is divided into two parts. So I put this string in to be or not to be. And there's three parts to this. I call them in those three parts. I have the first part. I have the current. That's the current word that I'm working on, and then I have what I call the rest. So there's three parts to it. There's the first with that set of curly braces. That's empty to start with. That's the current word. In this case, it's the first word, and that's the rest of my string. So there's my whole line. The first, the current, and the rest. And you want to organize things. You want to think in those ways. So the current word is in this case is 2. And so in my choices here, like this one says to erase the current word, and R says to replace the current word, and cut, it doesn't say it, but that implies that it's going to cut the current word and save it into a buffer. So we're organized around that current word. And when I move to the next word, that's moving that way, that will make B be the current word, and now 2 will be moved and will be part of the first. And let's take a look at how that'll work. So let's move forward with an N. And what we notice here is that whereas the 2 was the current word, we move to the next word, that would be B. So now we see that B is the current word, 2 has moved over into the first part, and the rest is the same, except that B has been removed. I can go in the other direction. I can say the previous. That puts me back to where I was. And notice that if I keep saying previous, that, you know, now the previous is empty, and if I keep saying previous, nothing happens. There's no error. I'm just trying to go to previous ones, and there are no previous ones. So let's go forward again. Let's get a couple of words in there, to be or not to be. Let's now, I've forgotten what my menu was, so let me type H to get my menu. Remember, I do have a typo in there because I have two P's. That doesn't work. All right, so what else might I do? Let's erase a word. Okay, which word is that going to erase? Well, it's going to erase the current word. So that's the current word, so that's the one that will be erased. All right, and we see now when we take a look at this that that the B was erased. All right, we erased that. What happened next? Well, the current word became the next one to the right. So that now became the current word, and the not to be became the rest. Right? Remember, we have the first current and the rest. This seems a little cumbersome. Back in the day, this was a lot better than working with punch cards. I realize I'm showing my age here. Okay, so all right, and what else can I do here? Well, I could insert a word. Let's see what happens here. Let's put Hamlet into the middle of this thing. Notice it prompts me for a string, and now, again, by the whatever arbitrary rules we've set up here, where do we insert? Well, I take this Hamlet and I put it at the right end of the first part, and that's where we see it. So the current word doesn't change on that one. All right. All right. So we've looked at the N, the P, the I, the E. We replace the current word. So let's take a look at that. Let's replace with 3 X's just to show up. And so what am I doing? Well, I'm replacing the current word. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to get rid of it, and I'm going to replace it with 3 X's. Let's see how that works out. All right, so now we see that I have 3 X's in place there. Again, I could put my my help menu. Let's cut a word out with C, and that's going to cut the current word out. And you see that now my current word, which was the XXX, that's been cut out, and it's been saved in a buffer. That's just some memory location that holds XXX. And in fact, all right. All right, so that got saved. Let me get rid of this here. Okay, we hope it got saved there. Now, that's not supposed to be a P. That's supposed to be a V. And let's try the V. That put it back in, and notice the V really did the same thing as an insert. So we see that so here I cut it out, it was gone, and we, just like we did with a delete, we deleted, and the first word in the rest became the current, and now when I did a V, remember that's the V there, that got, just like when we did an insert before, it goes into the first part. So that's how this process works. And of course, we can now do a Q to quit out of that. And by the way, I did have a buffer variable there for us to look at. Now, how do you go about doing this? Well, first of all, I do give you a, let's fix this typo at least in that one. I do give you a menu, and so when I run that, it will just print the menu. Okay, that's fine. Where do you start with this? Well, first of all, this is a command-driven loop. So the first one that I did, so the first one I do does nothing more than put a menu out there, and it will just simply print the command that I type in. There's an N, there's a P. It doesn't actually do anything, and then it lets me quit. Okay, so but at least now I've got the commands working. Okay, my next version just takes this a tiny bit further, and I can now at least print the menu. Now I can still do something like an N, it just prints the N, but if I do an H, it goes ahead and prints the menu. So I'm getting a little bit further along on that. Still have my typo in my menu on that version. And of course the quit works. Okay, so there was my next version. All right, so what's the next one I work on? The next one I'm going to work on is loading a string, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, if you're going to work on a string, you have to load it in, so it's a natural thing to do first. But the other part is, remember, there's three parts to my string that I'm dealing with here. I call it the first part, the current, and the rest. So I have three so I have three variables. These will be strings that I need to keep track of, and I will need to deal with those, to set those up when I load a string. So I'll load a string in and I'll break it up into those three parts. Now, how am I going to break a string up into those three parts? Well, first of all, I'm going to use find a space, right? Because that's what differentiates my word. So if I have something like to be or not to be, I want to divide this up so that the first is empty, 2 is in my current, and be or not to be is in the rest. How do I differentiate? How do I find those? Well, I need to find that space there. That will give me an index of where that space is. And then I can use slicing to extract that word and the rest of the string. That's what I can use with slicing. And it's handy to use strip also to strip off spaces after you've done that. So I can use slicing to get that into two parts. And let's see what this original, or when I try to do L, what does it look like? And when I do that, let's load a string. I still have my little line there that tells me my whatever command that's in there. I'm going to have to get rid of that. To be or not to be. Remember, so what am I going to do here? Again, I'm going to find this space right there. Okay, I'm going to find a space. And then I'm going to divide this up into three parts. I will have my first part that will be empty. I will then have 2 as my current word, and then I will have the rest, be or not to be. All right. So I have to take this one string and create 3 strings. And the way I do it is I find a space and then I slice. Remember, slicing is doing things with the colons and the square brackets. So I input this string and we see it comes out into those 3 components. And that's in fact all I did. I got that to work all by itself. And my menu is still left in there from before, and you can see that my string doesn't get changed by the menu, and I print it out again because if you're actually editing with this, you really want to be able to see the whole line. But once you've got this done, then you can, then the other pieces are relatively easy to do. And so I would then move on to the next and the previous to move back and forth. And initially with next and previous, don't worry about what happens when you work off to the end. You can handle that as a special case later on. But make sure you build that in. So hopefully that will give you enough of an idea to get started.